Welcome to Spinning Back Clique. Each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a quick spin through the biggest headlines in the sport. And this week, it is finally fight week once again. So let's not waste any time. Gorgeous George and Goze from MMA Junkie Radio are here. And let's put them on the clock. Guys, UFC 249 finally here. And there's an interim lightweight title fight in the main event with Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje. Now, the winner, presumably, will be facing undefeated champ Khabib Nurmagomedov later this year. So I want to take this from a different angle. We've talked about the fight since we've had so much time to talk about anything. But let's talk about it a different way. Which one of these two guys is best set up and has the best chance of beating Khabib Nurmagomedov? Let's put 3 minutes on the clock, and let's start with Goze. How about it?
Man, this is a great question. What I like about both these fighters is both of them have zero fear in the way that they fight. And I feel like sometimes when you have a dominant champ, that fight is already determined before it even starts. Sometimes the moment gets to the fighters. And these are two fighters that don't allow that to happen. So Tony Ferguson, what he has is he can offer that threat, whether they're standing or if the fight does go to the ground, he has offense off his back, which makes things very, very interesting. However, Justin Gaethje has a formidable wrestling game, and I think he can maybe fight off that takedown from Khabib early on. If he can do that, then they're in Justin's world. And that's the thing. The fight starts on the feet. That's Justin's world. I don't know that he would throw very many leg kicks because of the fear of being taken down, but his hands are just that much better than Khabib that I feel like it's just a huge advantage in striking. So if I had to pick one of them, I think I would pick Justin Gaethje to be my guy to go out there and see if he can't catch Khabib before Khabib catches him, where with Tony, I feel like it's maybe the other way around. So my pick, Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic, right? Because Justin Gaethje does pack that power that, is a game changer, no question about it. Whereas Tony Ferguson, I think that's what's been so interesting about the matchup all along is how he would perform off his back, plus the pace as well, right? The ability to push 5 rounds, which nobody's really been able to do with Khabib. George, how about you? If you had to pick one of these guys to take out Khabib, who would it be?
Man, I should almost just say ditto because Goze nailed it. And John, starting off with the fact that it's a great question, one of the best I think we've ever tackled on Spinning Back Clique. So let's go through this little labyrinth. Look, I think Tony Ferguson has the best chance to submit Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think Justin Gaethje has the best chance to knock out Khabib Nurmagomedov. And I think Tony Ferguson has the best chance to decision Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, let it be clear before I start getting my emails flooded with a bunch of Russians telling me I'm crazy. Whoever fights Khabib, I will probably take Khabib only because the guy's undefeated and he's just an unstoppable force. He takes you down and over and over and over, and he ground and pounds you in between just for fun. So let's get that out of the way. But that said, reverse coming back to the question, even though I picked two ways in which I think Tony Ferguson can win, I still think Justin Gaethje, like Goze said, possesses the skills to just – look, they both have a wrestling background. It's just that I think – with Justin, if he can stop a few of those takedowns or mitigate the damage from getting taken down and get back to his feet or maybe get saved by a bell or just reach the conclusion of a round, he's got those hands, man. He really has a lot of power in his hands. He's stopped formidable lightweights along the way. And then how about those leg kicks that are going to add up through time? You know what I mean? He's got to get that going as well. So he's got to beat Nurmagomedov to the proverbial punch and not just allow Khabib to take him down and start sapping him.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. What a great matchup it's going to be, and hopefully that's the fight that's next. Now, guys, the only reason I said presumably is that Conor McGregor is always lingering out there, and he can pretty much step into any fight he wants to given his star status. So let me ask you guys right now, where does Conor McGregor line up best right now? We know that he's been self-isolating and been preaching about, safety over there in Ireland. Plus the idea, he's probably going to have to fight without a crowd even present. Would he even be taking a fight with no crowd? The guy seems to live off that energy. Should he be looking at 170 pounds instead of 155? There's just so many options on the table with that guy. What do you think would be the right move for Conor McGregor right now? George, let's put 2 minutes on the clock and start with you. Go.
All right, so once again, there's always the Nate Diaz trilogy. That's an easy one. Low-hanging fruit there. I still think that from what I hear, Nick Diaz, man, look, he just wasn't the best saver. I feel like you could draw him in at any time through guys like GSP, Jorge Masvidal, Conor McGregor. There just seems to be storylines on all of those guys. I still think the creation of 165 pounds is a way in which the UFC could save face by still putting McGregor into a title fight, to launch a new weight class. Although that's more of the long shot, I guess. So I would have to say that Nate Diaz is the leading candidate. Jorge Masvidal is another one, which might tie into a question number 4 coming up here on Spinning Back Clique. I mean, yeah, those are the only ones that I can think of that make sense. He has to fight later in the year because he is an arena guy. I don't think he wants to go to Fight Island and just fight in front of 10 people, 20 people, 50 people max.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so interesting. There's a lot of matchups that would be fun, but man, you think about the Diaz trilogy happening in front of an empty arena. I mean, that just seems like almost a shame. So Goze, I know you probably heard that 165 and your ears perked up. What do you think? What's the right move?
You guys are not going to like this answer one bit. Conor McGregor, right now, this is not his world. No fans, no build-up. It's not something that I think really drives him. The guy has plenty of money. So if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this thinking like the UFC. And if you're going to use that piece on your chessboard, you want to maximize your results. Ultimately, what you want is that fight with Khabib. But right now, I just don't think we can make it happen unless there's some sort of injury or something like that. The timetable of Khabib coming back and all that just doesn't play with Conor right now. So if you want to use the guy and make money off of him and not risk that fight with Khabib, the only thing I think you can do is have him lace up some boxing gloves, maybe a Paulie Malignaggi fight or something like that, something that we don't want to see. But I think that's the only way you can use him and not have to worry about him losing.
I only let you go over the clock because we were talking about Conor McGregor and he gets extra time. But you know what, man? I hate to say it. I think you're right. This isn't Conor's world, man. I don't know if you put him out there with no fans present, man. I think it's just a weird deal. So interesting to see. All right, Francis Ngannou, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Everybody's excited for that one. Both guys campaigned for an interim title fight for their heavyweight fight at 249. Didn't happen. Meanwhile, we know the plan at heavyweight is for the trilogy between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. But do you guys see a scenario where the winner of this fight could sneak ahead in line? If not, what are they supposed to do while they wait? I mean, these are two guys in their prime. So what do you guys see happening in heavyweight? Goze, let's put 2 minutes on the clock and start with you.
Stipe and Daniel are both guys that are a little older now. They're more susceptible to injury. They have good money. They have thriving careers outside of MMA. To me, there's a lot of reasons why maybe this fight could not happen. The more time that goes by, it's not even like we have these hints of when we think it's going to happen. Both guys look very comfortable with what they're doing right now. So if I'm Jairzinho or if I'm Francis, what I'm doing is I'm staying ready because I feel like you could get that call at any moment. So I think they have to stay ready. There's so many scenarios in this pandemic where a fight can just be kept from happening that I think the winner, that's all they can do is just stay ready because I think it's not that far-fetched that one of these guys will not be able to fight or that Daniel calls it an end to his career. So I think they could step in, but definitely not take a fight in between.
Yeah, and Goze, you mentioned the pandemic. Of course, Stipe has said, listen, until I feel like, my first responder duties are taken care of, I'm not even thinking about a fight right now, so that might change everything. George, what do you think? Do you see a scenario where Ngannou or Rozenstruik might jump ahead and get themselves in a title fight?
Yeah, when they first pitched it, Rozenstruik and Ngannou, I was thinking, well, that's their job is to make their fights, raise the stakes of their fights that they're in. But it seems like we have a clear date, Miocic versus Cormier. It'll be Cormier's last fight either way. So I wasn't as into it. But then that comment that you just brought up, John, I read that as well. Miocic and his concerns with the pandemic, and I get it. He is a first responder. Much respect. I'm not saying that what he said was wrong or anything. But see, that's a priority of his that he has because he has another career. Rozenstruik, Ngannou, this is their baby. They dream. Their passion is to become a world champion. So I'm not sure that they're really like fist bumping Stipe over that. I mean, they're just thinking, look, man, this is our job. We want to be a world champion. I'm looking back, if they could press rewind, this should be for an interim title because half of the other equation, we know DC is out after this fight, win or lose.
I agree, man. I thought it should have been an interim title fight. It seemed like a slam dunk, especially once they lost Amanda Nunes, throw another title fight on there. I don't know. I was a little surprised they didn't because, again, I don't know what else these guys would do in the meantime while they wait. So, all right, listen, we talked about UFC 249, and it's solid, man, but we're going to be getting a lot of fights in pretty rapid fashion thanks to this delay we've had. The UFC has a bunch of events to put on. So let's talk about another big division right now. George, you teased it earlier, the welterweight division. Now, we thought we were getting Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal, but UFC President Dana White is teasing something else for Brett. Lay it out. What makes sense here? What are they teasing? Who does Masvidal fight? For that matter, who does Usman fight? Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. George, have at it.
Ooh, man, this division, I'm telling you, is so much fun to discuss because of the possibilities. Masvidal, okay, look, again, I know, but people are going to give me crap about this, but Nick Diaz, hey, I saw what you did to my little brother, BMF, what's up? Now let me get a shot. Okay, there's a storyline there. Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal. Connor's frozen out of 155 pounds. Him versus Masvidal would be arguably the 1 and 2 most popular fighters in the company right now. Let's do that, BMF style or whatever. Again, the introduction at 165 pounds, it allows Masvidal to fight for a title, allows Conor to fight for a title, boom. You got Magic there as well. GSP, yeah, that's a long shot. I don't know. But that's what I think about for Masvidal. For the division itself, okay, now we got to play the pieces of the puzzle, the process of elimination. It looks like Gilbert Burns versus Tyron Woodley. And Covington and Edwards are the last ones left out. And because Edwards might have problems getting out of the UK, I guess they have to lean towards Colby Covington.
It's a wild one, man. So many big names there and fun matchups. Goze. I mean, I thought we had this thing lined up, but the two biggest stars in the division right now, we're going to meet. Now that's not the case. What do you think? What do you think we're going to see play out here?
It's very interesting that in a situation like that, where we all felt comfortable that was just next, that somebody would be looking in a different direction. So what does that say about your belt, really, when you think about it? When there's options that are bigger than your belt in your organization, I think that's a little troublesome. So let's talk about the only things that can happen that can be bigger than a belt. Conor McGregor, that's definitely one. I've seen people say they would want to take that fight over a belt. There's the boxing angle that I hate bringing up, but it's always there. And then, a guy like GSP coming back, the 165 division. I think those are the only things that I can think of that would make you not want to fight for a championship belt. That's all I can come up with, guys.
That's twice you mentioned boxing today, Goze. You're on thin ice, man. You're on thin ice. All right, guys. Outside the UFC, it seems Bellator is going to be returning a little later this summer. But one of their biggest stars, Michael Chandler, is in the final fight of his contract, and he's been out there talking. He said it to you guys. He's willing to test free agency. So if you're the one giving me advice, where would you tell him to sign? I mean, certainly, the UFC is still the biggest organization. There'd be a bunch of fights for him there. But, Bellator, he's homegrown. He's been there forever, man. He's the face of the organization. Then, who knows, one championship, PFL, maybe they throw some money around. Who knows? So if you're advising Michael Chandler, where do you tell him to go? What are the goals? Let's start with you, Goze. 2 minutes. How about it?
I think the first question you got to ask Michael Chandler is, how do you feel comfortable being remembered? With the PFL, they came out. I would have, if they didn't call an end to their season, I would have said, look, Michael, if you want to make some money, go to the PFL, win a couple $1 million, and then from there, the rest of your destiny is in your control. If you want to do an Eddie Alvarez fight or whatever you want to do, you can go back and do it because now you have money in the bank. But with the situation, I don't know, man. I mean, I think if you want to be remembered as one of the greatest of all time, you have to fight some of the greatest fighters of all time. And the only way you could do that is in the UFC.
Yeah, man, I agree with that. There's ways to cash checks, but if you want your name to be remembered as an all-time great, you have to fight those all-time greats in the UFC. But we'll see what kind of money they put on the table. George, how about you? I mean, listen, Bellator, I don't think they're trying to get rid of the guy, but they also don't want to give away their bargaining power and their positioning by just saying we'll sign him at whatever cost. So it's going to be a discussion. If you were advising Michael Chandler, what would you tell him to do?
UFC, slam dunk. One championship only offers maybe 1 or 2 fights out there for him, and they'll be done quickly. And then he'll be wondering, standing there, kind of like how he is now. Now what do I do? At Bellator, they've had a chance to replenish the cupboards. They're empty. Thompson retired. Benson Henderson. That fight's already happened, really. And then you got the champion who's a champ, and he's part of this Grand Prix that's kind of stuck in the mud right now. So the UFC presents a deep roster of talent, at 155 pounds. And I think he can just go in there and still make some money. I don't know who's going to pay the biggest bucks, but if he becomes UFC champ, those are the big bucks. And let's not forget, Chandler has a college degree. He owns a gym. He owns a bull. And I think he's got a little bit of that Rich Franklin swag going, where I think he could join an organization in his latter years and contribute as an executive somewhere. You know what I mean? He just seems like a solid guy to build around. So I don't think he should worry about money. Like Goze said, go fight the best. Leave no stone unturned in your career.
It's intriguing, man. I've always said he's such a great spokesman for the company. I never thought about him being an executive like Rich Franklin, but you're absolutely right, man. That guy could nail that role. So an interesting time in Michael Chandler's life. He's done a great job in his career thus far. There's no question he'll make a great decision here wherever he goes. He's one to be respected for sure. All right, well, listen, guys, UFC 249, it marks a stretch of 3 cards in 8 days. So there's bound to be plenty to talk about concerning the fallout from all of them. Of course, we'll address it all here on Spinning Back Clique.